How does a Formula 1 motion rig cockpit affect the experience of driving a simulated Formula 1 car? At Sim Racing Expo, we jumped into a Wave Italy F1 simulator to find out. The Gamer Muscle finger fitness exercise. Click like, click subscribe. Wow, what a healthy finger. So this cockpit used a direct drive wheel for input with a really nice custom Formula 1 rim, which felt like the dog's bollocks. We had pedals that I believe were rebranded Husingveld pedals, which were then connected to a motor system that you can see the guy operating there, allowing for fast positioning forwards and backwards to allow for lanky or short people to jump into this rig. The seat that we were sat in was a moulded carbon fibre seat that was kind of like a Formula 1 seat, but obviously not moulded perfectly to our arse. It was a sort of in-between design to allow for fatties and skinnies to be able to use this sim rig. Obviously they use this for trade shows, events, marketing. If they went for a complete full-on 100% legit Formula seat, only 3 people would be able to get into it. The end result, though, of the seating position and the cockpit design that they've got is that you genuinely do feel as if you are sat in the front of a Formula car. It's a very immersive physical experience from the rig itself. Driving, a few things became apparent. The first was that how good is Assetto Corsa? Some people give it stick saying its Formula cars aren't the best, but personally, I absolutely love them. You get to really push them around a track, you've got a bit of slip you can play with, but crucially if you overdrive, you understeer and it does punish you eventually. In my mind, that is just spot on to how it should be. It might not be perfect, but it's bloody damn good. The next thing is that the rig and the way they set it up with the screens here was really nice, how the physical rig bled into the actual simulator software with the wheels in the game, or the sim, lining up with the cockpit body as if they were actually part of the cockpit body. This is a really good sort of illusionary technique to make you, when you're sat in the cockpit perspective, feel as if you are actually in the game. It really blends the game and reality together. It's not so noticeable from this camera view. Obviously the perspective's slightly off, so it looks like the suspension is floating around. But you have to trust me, in the cockpit itself, this works really well. This was also the case with the Porsche full-size car rig that we tried out. Check out the video in the description of that. Something that really surprised me was the wheel-in-face avoidance device, otherwise known as the Halo system. Intuitively, looking at it externally, you'd be like, oh, that looks like it blocks your view and you can't see anything, especially with a simulator that's ultimately 2D. But I have to say, whilst driving this, within under a minute, I became completely unaware of it. I was just zoned in on, focused on actually driving the car and getting it around the track as fast as possible and the force feedback and everything. And actually, what I would compare it to is if you play driving sims at home and you've got the aerial on the front of the car, the actual telemetry and communication aerial, it's pretty much the same as that. You just don't really think about it after a while. When you focus on it, it's really annoying. It's like being aware that you've got a nose. Oh God, now you've got a nose, you can see it, but most of the time you don't notice your nose, and that's kind of how the Halo system is. Now, you might have noticed that this Formula cockpit is flopping around like a fish that's been removed from the ocean. That is because I'm a bad driver. But it's also because the rig has motion specifically for the yaw of the car in the simulator. This does a really good job of conveying the slip of the car, reminding you that you've pushed a bit too hard on the happy go fast pedal. The nice thing with the motion on this rig as well was that it wasn't overdone. It wasn't like a really slow left-right slop and sort of bouncy trampoline movement. Everything was really nice and tight, really abrupt and really responsive. One of the things that I've definitely found, having driven a lot of motion rigs now, is that less is definitely more when it comes to motion simulators, especially if you're looking to go for realism, or as realistic as possible, or as informative from a driver's perspective as possible. If you're doing something for a big trade show and you want to show it off and it wants to be a ride and it wants to be entertaining, big motion's fantastic. But if you're a person that's looking for a good drive, then tight, responsive, minimal motion is, in my opinion, the best way to go. And whilst driving this, I'll be honest, I didn't really notice the motion that much. It wasn't something that was taking my attention away from the actual driving of the sim, which I think is a really good thing. It was that this was just one of the more, if not the most immersive experiences I've had driving a Formula car in Assetto Corsa. I think the only thing that would really beat this for me would be pretty much the exact same setup along with VR or maybe some kind of three-dimensional projector system that completely encapsulated you in the virtual world. But outside of that, I mean, this was just really, really nicely done. So a big thanks to Wave Italy for letting us jump on and potentially break their motion rig. Check out waveitaly.com for more information. They do driver simulators, they've got other motion rigs and setups, they do stuff for driving centres, they do loads of stuff. waveitaly.com. And then of course you probably noticed that the camera work in this was surprisingly arousing and sexy. And that's because this was filmed by callsign cameraman Random Callsign. Check out his channel by clicking on his channel link, which I've also displayed on the screen. As always, thank you very much for watching this. I'm off for a cup of tea. I will see you in the next video that we do, or live stream. If you subscribe, then you can watch us live and take part in that. Yes, happy sim racing. Take care. Goodbye, everybody.